So I want to welcome everybody to our webinar called Effective Communication for Leaders. We are High Road Leaders, and we are an organization where we are about creating communities of leaders worth following and helping people to become a leader worth following. So part of that is communication, which is why we have this webinar today. So our presenter today is Carol Myers, and she lives in Cape Breton Island. And I want to just turn it over to her to start now.
All right, excellent. So I'm just going to share my screen. All right, can everyone see my screen okay? Excellent. So let's get started. We've got lots of material to get through today, and I'm really excited to share this information with you. Before we get started, I'm gonna really put myself out here and be a little bit vulnerable in a story that I'd like to share with you. And this is a story about working with leaders when I was in the corporate world across Canada. While I was working with these leaders, we had a presentation one day, and it came down from head office. I had to train on this certain topic, and they all had to be comfortable with it and up and running with it by the end of our day together. So, in my process of thinking about what I needed to accomplish, I didn't pay attention to the audience. I didn't pay attention to the signals that they were giving, the crossed arms and the questioning faces and, the questions that I just let go and said, well, just listen, you're going to learn, just keep listening, you're going to learn. So I'm letting you know that it's very easy for us to miscommunicate or read different body signals in a different way. The one lady came and approached me after the meeting and said, Carol, I really didn't understand this, and nor did a couple other people. I realized I had missed the clues. I had missed their questions. I shouldn't have just dispersed them quickly and tried to carry on, because I had an agenda in my head and I was thinking about what I needed to get done. We did have another meeting afterwards, and I worked with them one-on-one, and we built a real great connection afterwards. And I always knew that I had to follow up with them and take a little extra time to support them, to have the information, the understanding, and really be able to take actions from what I was teaching. So we can ourselves um, come across in a way that's not effective communication for others, and even disengage with them and not recognize their concerns. So leadership is built on communication, but not all communication leads to connection. So today we're going to explore how you can communicate effectively as a leader and truly connect with your team. So our takeaways today is understanding communication styles. We're going to learn how different DISC communication styles impact leadership and effectiveness. Or leadership effectiveness, building connection and clarity. We're going to discover strategies to foster engagement and ensure messages resonate with your team. So there's where I had a little bit of miss in that story that I told you. Active listening and feedback, improve leadership through intentional listening and delivering constructive feedback. We're going to recognize and overcome miscommunication. So I'm going to identify some common leadership communication pitfalls and how to prevent them. So adapting your leadership communication, we're going to use DISC insights to adjust communication styles for maximum influence, and practical tools for immediate application. So you'll walk away today with some actionable steps to improve daily interactions with your team. So let's dive into DISC. Now, I have to say, I've got a lot of passion for DISC, and I could probably do a whole half-day presentation on this. It really is about understanding the 4 DISC personality styles that we see prominently within each other. So our Ds and Is are more outgoing, so they're our outgoing group, while our Cs and S's are more reserved. Now, our Ds and Cs are task-oriented, while our Is and S's are people-oriented. So each day, you and I have multiple opportunities to connect with others. Not everyone communicates like you or I. The biggest leadership mistake is assuming they do. So let me share with you a glimpse into each of the 4 styles and some tips on communicating with them before we go into communication, because this all goes hand in hand. So our D style individuals make up about 3% of the population. They thrive on control. They make quick decisions. They're very, very decisive. They're very direct as well and can sometimes appear even bossy. And they focus on results. Their main focus is results. They can sound too blunt to others as well. Our eyes, our eyes persuade others simply by speaking. They're just that social butterfly that just attracts everyone. They're spontaneous and friendly. They're often in the spotlight. They love the spotlight, actually. They're enthusiastic, people-oriented, and well, they're great storytellers. They may talk too much and lose focus. So it's estimated that eyes make up about 11% of our population. So now we look at our S's. They're team oriented. They're great at follow through. If you need something done, your S's are going to get it done. They're loyal and work best in a cohesive atmosphere. They are thoughtful, relationship focused, and value stability. They can struggle with giving direct feedback. So if that's someone in your team, you might want to avoid giving them that task. And it's estimated that 69% of the population is S-wired. Now our C's are compliant. They are on time. They're very analytical and not at all spontaneous. In fact, they're planners and they take pride in accuracy. They're detail-oriented, logical, and structured. They can seem cold at times or overly critical. It's because they want everything to be perfect. They want all the right decisions, T's crossed, I's dotted. C's are about 17% of our population. And with those who are C-wired, like I said, they need those details. And they also want to make sure that you validated them too. So now, how can we communicate with our individuals who are D, I, S, and a C? So you can see on the left-hand side of my sheet, there's characteristics. We're going to focus, because we just covered the characteristics, we're going to focus on the communication approach. But this is a great, if you want to take a screenshot, this is a great screenshot for you to have. So with our D in communicating with them, we want to be direct and brief. Remember, they like to get things done quickly. Stay in the big picture. They don't need all the fluff and all of the details. And so certainly don't share the details with them because they don't want to hear them. For a decision, provide them with options and maintain your focus on the results, not the process. They don't really care who's going to do what and how it's going to be done. They want to know what the end result is going to be. And then communicating with our I personality, allow them the opportunity to share their ideas. They want to know that they've been heard and that they've contributed to the team. Keep the conversation fun. They're all about having fun and engaging others. Don't overwhelm them with too much data because they're not going to remember it anyways because they're too busy socializing and having fun. Expect to follow up with them. So if you give them a task, by the time they get back to their office, they've probably forgotten because they've talked to 6 people along the way. So make sure you flip them an email to remind them and provide them short, concise information in a friendly way. So quick meetings are much better for an I personality. Now, communicating with an S, you want to keep the conversation tone pleasant and friendly. Steer clear of confrontational words or attitude. So even if you're feeling a little bit more stressed that day, check yourself before you have a conversation with them and just bring your tone down so you've got that nice friendly voice. Even put a smile on before you speak with them. Express your appreciation for their dedication and loyalty. This is really important for S's. Focus on maintaining a supportive tone and provide them with time to adjust to change. They do not adjust to change quickly. So you might even want to call them in and tell them what's going to happen on that project or policy before you launch it to everyone else. Our C's, you want to focus on facts. Remember, they want all the details. So keep the tone professional, get right to the point, give them all the details, provide them with time to analyze options for decisions. And remember, they may ask many questions because they process by gathering facts and ensuring they're validated as well. So those are your best ways on communicating with a D, an I, an S, and a C. So when we learn to speak to someone, when we learn to speak to someone else's language, we don't just make a connection, we make an impact. So why is knowing someone's disc style so important? Well, because as author John Maxwell says, connecting increases your influence in every situation. So using the communication strategies of DISC, we can transform results and relationships. So which style, you can fire this in the chat as well. I can't really see it right at the moment, the way my screen is set up, but which style do you feel you are most like? A D, an I, an S, or a C? Now think about your team members or people in your life that you deal with every single day. Can you identify their styles? And by identifying where you believe their style is, how does that impact how you communicate with them? So I really want you to think about how how you're communicating with the different styles within your family, your community, your work environment. So now you don't need to really understand why the techniques of connecting works. And when I talk about communicating, it's really about connecting. They go hand in hand. Really, we can communicate without connecting, and that's not impactful. You really need to understand the principles and then apply them. So one principle is that connecting increases your influence in every situation. And according to Harvard Business Review, the #1 criteria for advancement and promotion for professionals is an ability to communicate effectively. So what's leadership? It's influence. How do you influence others? By connecting. How do you connect? Effective communication. So which includes effective listening as well. So now we're going to do a quick little exercise. I'm going to split you all up into some breakout rooms. And I think we've got an odd number in there, Julie, so we might need to put 3 in a room. Or, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm sure you can split it up. What I'd like you to do is we're going to do a quick little effective listening exercise. So you'll all be invited to the breakout room. One person will share a work-related challenge. You've got 60 seconds, so 1 minute to share the challenge. The person who's listening will take they will summarize back to you exactly what you've heard in 1 sentence. So 60 seconds to state your challenge. The person reiterates back to you to summarize it in 1 sentence and then reverse the role. All right.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, let's go. Hey, Bob, it looks like you and I will be in a room. So we're supposed to, in 60 seconds, explain a business problem that we're having. And then the other person is supposed to summarize it in 1 sentence, and then we reverse it. So
Okay.
I will go first and say what my business problem is. So my business problem is getting enough people to come to my LeaderCast event, like selling tickets to it. So that's the thing that I'm most concerned about these days. So you summarize it now.
Sounds like getting people to come to your event is what you're focused on.
Yes. Okay, what's your problem?
My business problem is we do not yet have a budget for next year. We usually get it about a month before now, and we're still waiting. And so it's very hard to plan when you don't know what you're planning for.
Okay, so my summary then is that you're missing a budget. And it's hard to move forward if you don't have a budget.
Yes.
Okay, so that's pretty easy. I don't know. Okay.
It was good.
Was that
Yeah.
like, do you think that was 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
I don't know, but I'm going to close my door now that I logged on. I just logged
Okay.
on, so I'm late to the party.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Masood and Adiswa, is that how you say it? If you guys want to share something, you can. Otherwise, I'm going to close the rooms and everybody will come back together.
Okay.
Um,
Hi, Amit. Can you hear me?
yes, I can.
Right, excellent. My challenge is engaging more with our customers who are kind of remotely working on rigs. So they do have issues on the rig, and getting us to communicate with them to provide effective solutions immediately is kind of like a challenge. So it's always possible you have to send the technicians down to the field, guys, which costs us a significant amount of money. So for us to do that, we need easier, better solutions to be able to communicate effectively with the team and the rig. So this is a challenge, how to engage the guys on the rig to communicate clearer, both with use of technology, of course, it's remote. So I think I've said so much, but yeah, if you can summarize that.
So the quick summary is you have communication problems with people who work away on the rigs. Like that's kind of the quick summary of that. So,
Yeah.
so I think there's still a couple people that need to come back from their rooms. Let me see. I think that's it. I think we're all back now. Yes. You're on mute, Carol.
Look at that. Now I'm not on mute. There we go. All right. So everyone can see my screen again, okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's keep going. All right. So you can improve your results by improving your ability to connect and influence people. So if you want to improve your marriage, connecting better will make a huge difference. Want a promotion? You need to connect better with your boss or your customers or your peers or your team. If you want to improve your relationships with your friends, it's all about connecting. So even though we talk about communication, it's communication to connect. We need others. We need to be able to connect and influence other people to succeed in this world. So the friction you experience in your day-to-day lives, so we're talking about those work struggles that we have, it all comes down to leadership, connecting, and influence. So of all of these skills, the great news is they're all 100% teachable. So which means you can learn to connect, you can learn to lead, and you can learn to improve your ability to influence people. Anyone can learn how to make every communication an opportunity for a powerful connection. It might be out of your comfort zone, and for quite a few of us, it certainly is. I know it's out of mine when I first started, but it is within your reach. So remember, if we are comfortable, we're not learning and we're not growing. So talking is easy, connecting takes effort. People won't follow you just because of your title. They'll follow you when they feel valued. So connecting is the ability to identify with people and relate to them in such a way that it increases our influence with them. So some people have the ability to connect with others more naturally. They seem to value people automatically. People who are extroverts find it easier to connect and communicate with others. So I'm an introvert, as I alluded in the last slide, and therefore I've had to learn the skill of connecting and communicating with others. Others recognize connecting as important, but maybe they lack the tools or techniques as I did. They need to learn the skills, and some people don't recognize connecting as important at all. They think they can do it all on their own, and we must, you could even be this yourself, I'm just going to do this myself. I'm not going to bother. I'll be able to get it done quicker. I'll be able to get it done right. It's probably not going to get done right by the other person anyways. We may feel that way or know somebody who does. The better we are able to connect with each other, the better our results, and we can accomplish much more as a group or a team than an individual. So when thought, emotion, and action are congruent, connection goes beyond what we say. because we now are showing them through emotions that they feel and are now connecting with them beyond our words. So you can see by the slide here that what we say accounts for 7% of what is believed. Now that was pretty shocking when I first seen that. The way we say it accounts for 38%, and what others see accounts for 55%. So our words are not really heard or even understood for that factor. So when we look at action, it's an action to connect with people visually, expand your range of expressions, move with a sense of purpose, maintain an open posture. We definitely do not want to be having a conversation with our arms crossed and expect to be reciprocated with conversation back. And when we look at thought, to connect with people intellectually, knowledge must be experiential. Experience is not only a good teacher, it's a great persuader. And then, of course, emotion. And as many of you might know, we make a lot of decisions by emotion. We are 70% emotion driven when making purchases or any major decisions, and only 30% by logic. So think of that when you're buying a house or a car. You know, we're going on emotion. And to connect with people emotionally, people may hear your words, but they feel your attitude. So you really want to check yourself from time to time and see how you're presenting. So there's a common denominator for, when we look at the connecting requires energy, there's a don'ts list. So when we look at our don'ts list, we don't want to be unprepared, uncommitted, uninteresting, and uncomfortable. And from those, 3 of them use energies. The first 3 are function of effort. It takes energy to be prepared, committed, and interesting. So whether we're speaking with one person or many, it takes energy. When connecting with others, there are specific things you can do to foster the connection. So with your spouse, at a social gathering, with coworkers, your boss, at a medium, or even from a podium. This doesn't mean you have to fill the room with energy and be an extrovert, because introverts are introverts. You simply must be willing to use whatever energy you have to focus on others and reach out to them. So there are 5 proactive ways to use energy for connecting. First is initiate. I don't know about you, but I'm an introvert, and but I would like to just not speak to that person across the other side of the room. I really don't want to, but we often delay and wait for the other to initiate the conversation, and we miss out on opportunities. So Malcolm Bain states, if you wait until you can do everything for everybody instead of something for somebody, you'll end up not doing anything for anybody. So if you want to connect, don't wait, initiate. And then a clarity. We discussed we discussed taking initiative to start the conversation, which means it can occur in the moment. When it occurs in the moment, we need to have clarity of thought, which comes from preparation. So knowing yourself, which is your personal preparation, knowing your audience, which is the people preparation, and knowing your stuff, which is our professional preparation. And then, of course, there's patience. And sometimes we do run a little short with our patience, especially if we've got tight deadlines. But connecting requires patience. Slow down. How often have you bumped into someone at the grocery store? I've done this. Again, my hand goes up, and I'm in a hurry, and I'm concerned about what I've got to do when I get home, and you know what's got to be done for the next day, and I've got to hurry up and do this because, oh Lord, I need to get some sleep in there as well. So we grow impatient, we begin thinking of all of these things, when it would only take a quick second to ask the other person and to let them know, you know what, I've really got a lot of things on my mind right now, and I can't really listen to you effectively, but I would love to catch up with you because I know it's so important. When would be a great day? And pull up your phone. Everyone's got calendars on their phone now, and give them a spot or get their phone number and put it in your calendar to follow up with them. It's selflessness. Give more than you're getting. Be generous with the things that you have learned and your successes. Share your tips and tricks that have supported you in gaining success. Share the different strategies that have occurred in, different tragedies. I got an S coming out there instead of tragedies. Share the different tragedies that have occurred in your life, which you have learned from. It's important to share these as well, because that's a great way in connecting if someone is in a similar situation. So in life, we have givers and we have takers. If you want to take a second, fire in the chat. Who do you prefer to be around, a giver or a taker? And then, of course, it is stamina. Communicating with others takes a lot of physical, mentally, and emotionally energy. Ensure that you've been recharged always, with your batteries being charged up full before going into an event, meeting, or working with others. It takes energy to make meaningful connections. And for anyone who's an introvert, as I declared I was, it takes even more energy. So ensure you allow time to recharge between meetings, events, or any conversations with your colleagues. But trying to push through it only brings room for ineffective connections. You can't fake energy and you can't fake connection. So what are the things that recharge your battery? I'd like you to think about that. And if you want to share in the chat, please do so. There's lots of ways that we can recharge our own energy. So connecting requires, oops, sorry, forgot to, connection always begins with a commitment to someone else. Very important that the other person is in the front and foreline. So 5 factors of connecting. The first is relationships. Who you know. A quick way to gain credibility with an individual, a group, or an audience is to borrow it from someone who has credibility with them. Who you know can open the door. Next is insight. What you know. If you share an, oh, sorry, here we go. This is the 5 different things. If you share an area of expertise generously with others, you give people reasons to respect you and develop a sense of connection with you. So we're looking at, success, what you've done, people that want to be successful and they seek out others who have accomplished something to get their advice. So if you're striving to do better in your career or, a sport that you're doing, you always want to find someone who's doing better than you and you want to, connect with them. An ability, what you can do. If you have a high level ability in any areas, others will want to connect with you because of that ability. So excellence connects. Individuals who perform at a high level in their profession often have instant credibility with others. So people admire them, they want to be like them, and they feel connected to them. So when they speak, others listen. And then, of course, there's sacrifice. How have you lived? If you've made sacrifices, suffered tragedy, or overcome painful obstacles, many people will relate to you. And if you have been able to remain positive yet humble in the midst of life's difficulties, others will admire you and will want to connect with you. So remember, authenticity wins. No one connects with a fake leader. These connection factors are just the beginning, and I'm sure you can think of some other factors to go along with these ones. So if you recall, I mentioned that anyone can learn how to make every communication an opportunity for a power connection. You need to learn the skill and practice it. And remember, I'm naturally an introvert. So I was not the teacher's pet. I wasn't the person up in the front of the class or having conversations with many of my classmates. I had to learn the skills and practice and learn and practice and learn. So connecting is more a skill than a natural talent. The point is that you must take whatever you have and use it to connect with others. The more factors you have and the better you can become at using them, the greater your chance of connecting with people. You must play to your strengths, develop your own style, and cultivate whatever skills you can in order to connect with people. Max De Pree, author of Leadership is an Art, and the former CEO of Herman Miller, said, "There may be no single thing more important in our efforts to achieve meaningful work and fulfilling relationships than to learn the practice and the art of communication." And I couldn't agree more with that. So to ignore this when trying to connect is to miss the whole point of connecting. Connectors understand this. They know they have to connect with people on common ground. So if I talk to you about my beliefs and my values and they're not yours, you're probably not that interested intellectually. But there's certainly no emotional resonance there. You can't relate to me. You don't have a good feeling about me. And worse yet, if I offend you in any ways, you've got a bad feeling about me now. So you have to find that common ground. Having a conversation with the person and letting them talk while you effectively listen, you'll learn about what is important to them. During this conversation, you'll also find that common ground where our beliefs and theirs intersect. We can connect with them here. Then take them where we want them to go. If you don't connect, they won't go with you. Now, that could mean they will buy into the project. They may not, in your team is working on agreeing to purchasing the product from you. There's so many different ways that we need another's buy-ins. And yes, this all takes energy. So finding that common ground. So now for me, it was when I became a grandparent and I had conversations and, someone would mention, if you ask people to share with you, they are going to share. They're going to share all the things that are important to them. And it could be their work. It could be their extracurricular activities or that hobby that they have. And if they have grandkids, you can bet they're going to bring the grandkids up. And that's where I usually could find a common ground. So have that conversation, listen intently, 110%. It's all about them. And when you find that common ground, now you know that you can use that to make that connection. So let's look at some communication pitfalls in leadership. So even great leaders miscommunicate. The key is learning how to fix it quickly, which is my story at the beginning of this presentation. So when we look at miscommunications, we do have some factors, and assuming, sorry, I just got to move my little bar around here. Assuming understanding, leaders often assume that once something is said, it's understood, but people interpret messages through their own filters, which can lead to vastly different understandings. So a manager announces, here's an example. A manager announces, let's prioritize the Thompson project this week. And one team member thinks it means working overtime, while another continues working on a different task, believing they're on track. No one clarified what prioritize actually meant. So clarity is kindness. Set clear expectations and check for understanding. Now, lack of active listening. Leaders may listen to respond rather than listen to understand. This results in missed opportunities to support or coach effectively. So an employee brings up a concern in a one-on-one, but the leader, checking their phone, responds with, let me know if it becomes a real issue. The employee leaves feeling unheard and disengaged. And now we've got not adapting to different styles. Communicating in your own style without adapting can cause friction or disconnect. Different styles need different approaches. So an example is a dominant or a D leader gives short, direct orders to a S or steady team member who prefers context and reassurance. The team member feels rushed and undervalued, leading to anxiety and confusion. Overloading with information. Too much detail at once can overwhelm and dilute the core message. So in a team meeting, the leader shares a 20-slide data-heavy presentation. You must have seen these ones where the slides are full of words. You can hardly see them all. When summarizing it, without summarizing it even, people leave unsure about the next steps. Get to the point, use bullet points, and not paragraphs. So we look at our pyramid here. Our negative emotional tone highlights how a leader's tone can shut down open dialogue. Ambiguous messaging represents unclear or inconsistent messaging that leads to confusion. Unstated objectives demonstrates the frustration caused when expectations or goals are not clearly communicated. So ignoring nonverbal cues. I did that, as I mentioned at the first of the show or first of the presentation. Body language, facial expressions, and tone often communicate more than words. Ignoring these can lead to missed signals. So example of this is during a meeting, an employee crosses their arms. Remember I said we know something's going on when their arms are crossed, and avoids eye contact after receiving feedback. The leader doesn't address it or follow up, missing a chance to clarify, and even better, to support them. So that's a big one. Failure to provide clear expectations. So vague language like ASAP or make it better leaves too much room for interpretation. So example, a leader tells a team member to tighten up the proposal. The employee changes the formatting, but the leader meant they wanted stronger key points. Now they both feel frustrated. So here's a visual of what often happens between what we say and what our team hears. So think about a time you gave a clear direction and were surprised by the outcome. This funnel shows where communication can break down through assumptions, biases, and distractions that distort the original message. So can any of you think of a time when one of those filters got in the way of a message you delivered or received? And if anyone wants to open the mic and share an example or throw it in the chat, that would be great. And Julie, I can't really see the chat, but if anyone wants to share in chat or open up the mic.
Could you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So can you think of a time when one of the filters, so the filters that's on the screen here, got in the way of a message you delivered or received?
Well, I can think of one time that was highly embarrassing for me, and it was just the whole thing wasn't communicated well because there was a property across the street from our business that had a for sale sign, like a house that was for sale, and it was one of those areas where you could turn a house into a business. So my boss wanted to know more about the house. Well, on the front of on the corner of that lot, there was an open house sign, right? So they were communicating. They were saying there's an open house. And I went over there and the door was wide open. So I just walked on in and I walked in and I'm like, oh, there's dirty dishes in the sink. And I'm walking around and all of a sudden I met these people and they're like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm here for the open house. And they're like, there's no open house here. The open house was actually 4 doors down, but because this house was on the corner, I thought it was the house that was for sale. But anyway, like to me, there are lots of times that we put up a sign like that and we say, oh, this is what's happening, but the other person misinterprets something else, right? So then all of a sudden
Exactly.
you walk in on people who are just getting out of the shower with dirty sink dishes in the sink. It was very embarrassing. That's all I can say.
Yeah. And it's very true. And this happens so much in life with our spouse or significant other, with our family members, with our team. It's really important to ask questions for clarification to really ensure that the understanding is there and that we're both, because we've all lived different lives. We've been brought up in different ways. We have different beliefs, different values. It's kind of crazy for us to think that other people would think the same as us, but sometimes we forget that. So looking at some more pitfalls is delivering feedback poorly. So feedback that's too harsh, it's sugar-coated or non-existent can reduce motivation or cause confusion. So example is a leader tells a team member, this just isn't good enough, without specifying what's wrong. The employee is left demoralized and unsure how to improve. Leaders owe their teams honest feedback. Delaying hard conversations makes them even harder. Relying too much on one medium. Too much detail at once can overwhelm and dilute the core message. So example is a leader sends an email that reads, this needs to be fixed immediately. The tone comes across an angry or critical, and when it was meant to convey was urgency, upsetting the team member. So these tough conversations require a balance of honesty and encouragement. So negative emotional, when we look at our pyramid again, our negative emotional tone reflects poor tone or delivery that triggers defensiveness or shuts down dialogue. Our ambiguous messaging highlights how unclear or vague communication can lead to misunderstandings and inefficiencies. And then our unstated objectives emphasizes the lack of clarity around purpose or desired outcomes, which leads to confusion and misalignment. So allowing personal biases to affect communication. Leaders may unconsciously favor some voices or interpret comments differently based on past interactions or assumptions. So examples, a leader regularly interrupts a younger, quieter team member, but gives full attention to more vocal senior staff. Over time, the quieter employee disengages, thinking their input doesn't matter. Not encouraging open dialogue. If leaders don't create a psychological safe space for questions or pushback, people will stay silent even when they're confused. So in a meeting, the leader always closes with, and this could be just a habit of theirs, any questions? In a rushed tone. No one asks anything, even if they're unsure and they want to ask questions, because they fear looking unprepared. So with the we went through 10 pitfalls just now, and I'm sure there's more we can come up with, but which of the 10 pitfalls have you experienced and what happened? Anyone want to share? Again, you can throw it in the chat if that's a little easier for you. Everyone's so quiet today. It must be because it's Friday.
Well, I'll step in, and I think the feedback one is in my corporate career before doing what I'm doing now. That was a huge one. You know, I had a lot of direct reports, and getting to them and giving feedback on a consistent basis was very challenging. And then to have to fit into a mold of what do you call it, performance reviews at the end of the year, that led to some very uncomfortable situations that weren't fair to either side. You know, they weren't, the feedback that was being given wasn't really fair to the person, nor was it fair for me to deliver it. So I think that's one that if you've got a lot of people in your direct, then you've got to really pay attention to that one.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one, Glenn. Yeah. Anyone else want to share?
Carol, I believe somebody had their hand up at some point.
Okay, sorry, I can't see that.
Yeah,
My
they're
screen.
showing up as just S. Was it you, Julie, or?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
Sam? It's Sam. Can Sam unmute, Julie?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Hi. Hello. Hello, yeah. Thank you. I actually wanted to ask for some clarification regarding one of the common communication pitfalls. So it says on the slide that relying too much on one medium, and then beneath that it says too much detail at once can overwhelm and dilute the core message. So although I understand about the overwhelm and the dilution of the core message, it's unclear what it's meant by relying too much on one medium. Could you clarify that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we mean by that is, for example, sending out a massive email and just assuming that everyone has all of the understanding, whatever details were shared in that email. So they've got all the details and everyone understands, and perhaps they missed the email, perhaps they didn't have time. So that's one medium. One medium would be the email, but it could be another medium they've used as well, right?
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So is this like a medium in terms of a form of communication? So here it's sort of you may send out emails, but then perhaps also it would require some follow-up when it comes
Exactly.
to yeah.
Exactly,
So that
Sam,
could be
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, again, it's like a text message. I don't know. I don't know anyone else, but the text I dislike text message. I'd rather pick up the phone and call the person or make a Zoom meeting, because text can be so construed in how it's interpreted from the other person. So relying on one medium to communicate and expect it to be effective communication and understood by everyone in the same way that it was meant to be understood is it's definitely a misperception in our brain, that's for sure. Does that make sense, Sam?
Yeah, that does. Yeah, thank you. I
Okay.
mean, just to comment, and perhaps this is something for the future, but it'd be great to know what sort of blend of mediums and sort of follow up and I suppose sort of ecosystem of communication would be optimal. You know.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, for myself, I still believe in the conversation. So face to face or phone or Zoom, so that we can see body language, especially in the Zoom and the face to face. But yeah, we can definitely follow up with Julie. If you can grab a note for me, we can follow up with that.
I think
The
too,
reason why I mentioned, sorry, I do apologize. The reason why I mentioned that was because I know that sometimes, and I've seen this myself, that sometimes there's certain details that big picture thinkers may, sort of forget or confuse certain things like dates or, certain things. And sometimes those are great in an email or in a text message. But then getting confirmation and sort of, understanding is better in a call. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if we think back to our disc, if we've got someone who's an eye profile or perhaps, it just was perceived in a different way, and we send out, if we have a conversation, but then follow it up with an email is a great way to really lock in, like you say, dates or times and specific details. So if we're having a meeting, throughout the meeting, obviously notes can be taken and then it can be relayed back through an email as that backup, so that they can look back to that information to confirm specific details that are important to whatever the project or task is. Yeah. So it's always
Thank you.
good to have a couple different ways of communication because of that misinterpretation. So sometimes we could have a meeting and everyone leaves, they've all got a different idea of what the task is or the project is or what the bottom line is, but they can be perceiving it in different ways. And by having that follow-up email or even having a follow-up meeting afterwards, the person might go, oh, wait a minute, I thought it meant this when really it meant that. So having a couple different ways of communication when you're working on any projects or within a team are always beneficial, because sometimes we need to hear it that second time, and it might be a different word that was used or a different question that was asked that we then, oh, okay, I get it, right? I was over here, but now I know I need to be over there. Does that make sense
Thank
for
you.
everyone?
Yeah, Carol, there's another question in the chat, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced this name. I think it's Aidsawa, and I apologize, but how do I handle a manager that likes to interrupt each time I share my opinions in a meeting? When I speak, she's usually quick to respond to before I'm done speaking. I think we can all relate to that one.
And so they're their manager? Is that the way I'm hearing it right, Glenn? Their
Yeah,
manager
the
is doing
person
that?
they report to. Yeah.
Okay. So when the manager, what I would recommend is to ask for a one-on-one with the person. You've got to be really diplomatic about how the conversation unfolds, but you can speak to them about the scenario that's occurring and just say, oh, I just wanted to raise a concern that I have. And, I feel like I'm not being heard. You don't want to call them out. Definitely don't call them out. Because then they'll get defensive, but you just want to share your concern with them about not feeling like you're heard, and that you would like to be able to, say what you need to say and ask the questions that you want to ask without any interruptions, and that you would like to have your point heard. now, you know, the manager, it depends on the manager and their type on how they're going to react to this, but based on how they react is what you would then go to your next option, which means you might need to go above them. But also you can communicate with them in a way that you know, you're sharing your ideas with them. If they're interrupting you, you can just keep coming back to that same point. And as you keep coming back to that same point, hopefully they will catch that clue that you still have the point to share with them and that you'd like to be heard and valued. Some teammates may feel the same way as well. So it may be worth having a conversation with them as well. Is that
And
clear?
Carol, yeah, Carol, Bob puts in there, sounds like a DISC 1 level D, so maybe a DISC assessment would be
100%.
good for the team as well. Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, because if they're a D, and so saying that as well, and Bob, thank you for mentioning that. But saying that is there's a very good chance they are D wired. You want to be very precise with them, and so in saying that, they may be interrupting or cutting you off because they feel they want the bullet points. They don't want all the details. They don't want, so you can try perhaps when you're approaching them next time to really bring that in, to really hone that in and have bullet points when you're speaking with them to get your points across. It may be more effective for them to have the exact concern without too many details. And then they're more likely to listen because they want it quick, direct, and to the point. Okay. All right, so in essence of time, we're going to keep moving forward, but great questions, everyone. So we are just about done, and there is a Q&A coming up. But I did want to offer a free goodie for everyone that's on the call today. So I've created a 6-step guide worksheet and getting unstuck through self-discovery, personal growth, and development. This guide provides a structured framework for you to enhance your self-awareness and identify your strengths and weaknesses. Your values and your goals as well. Like what's important to you? What's your purpose in life? And then there's also a section with to make actionable steps for setting SMART goals and overcoming obstacles. You can develop a practical strategies to navigate change and improve your communication skills. And also with your understanding somewhat now of DISC and the behavioral styles, you can kind of figure out where you fit in there as well. And there's a section in the guide to also recognize your achievements. It doesn't matter how small or big, all achievements should be recognized. So if you want to grab a copy of that, it's a QR code on the screen.
I've also put the link in the chat to make it easier.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. So as we spoke before, we're each a distinct combination of the 4 different types, or maybe 2 or 3. And if you'd like to learn the degree to which you are a D, an I, S, or C, our Maxwell DISC Personality Indicator Report provides a 30-page in-depth report. It covers such things as communication style, environment where you best thrive in, your strengths, your weaknesses, your fears. It has so much in this report. I've got it on special right now, regular $250. It's $199. Of course, that's the QR code. If you'd like to just hop on a quick discovery call, if you're not quite sure what your next step should be or what direction you should go in, it's a complimentary call. There's the QR code right below the disc, and the bigger QR code on the right-hand side is how to connect with me. So we are going to open it up for Q&A now, if there's any other questions that anyone wants to ask. And there's a QR code there for a short survey. It should only take you about 2 or 3 minutes to fill. We really do appreciate all the survey results, as it really helps us to improve as we're improving every single day, growing and developing ourselves so that we can be the best that we can for each of you and bring value to each of you. So if anyone has any questions. you can feel free to put them in the chat. And Julie and Glenn, if you could keep an eye on the chat, because I can't really see it on the screen.
Yeah, question, Carol, Bob here.
Yeah.
And a comment. Thank you so much for such an engaging presentation.
Thanks, Bob.
Communication, such a tough nut to crack, but I've had a little experience with the DISC resource, and it's just so incredible. So I'm encouraging myself and anyone else listening to really engage in your offering today, because it's the transformation that I've seen in my organization utilizing the Maxwell DISC is can't be understated. It's just been incredible for teams, new teams, and so it's until you kind of get into it, it's really hard to see the value of it. But anyone that's participated that I'm aware of has just been blown away. So thank you for such a great offer to us, the group here today.
Thank you, Bob. So
Is
if
it-
there,
I
sorry,
was
Julie.
just going to say, it is a great way to help you recognize things in other people, right? Because when Sam was talking before, we were talking about writing emails, because I have found there are people that just want, give me the points here, and like, so I'll write an email, and it's like, if I'm giving a lot of details, I will put down the points and I'll bold the thing that I really want them to know, and then more details for everybody else. So for the people that really just want to be direct and to the point, they can just read all the bolded things and they've got it all, right? For the people that want all the details, they'll read the whole thing. So there's a little bit that you kind of have to learn to write emails or share details in a way that people want to see it, right? Because our eyes often want to just give me some pictures to look at, and like there's just lots of different ways to do it.
Exactly. And that's a great point, Julie, because if we want, if we've got, I mean, an ideal team has some of all the D, the I, the S's, and the C's, because that's a powerhouse team when you've got everyone on board. And of course, everyone prefers to be communicated in different ways. So doing it in a format that appeals to all of the D, I, S, and C's is a great way to have the communication going out to everyone, for sure. Okay, well, if anyone still has a question, please feel free to shout it out or put it in the chat. But I'd like to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules today to join me to learn a little bit on the effective communication, and DISC personalities. And again, if you're unsure on what your next best steps are or actions are for you to continue growing and thriving, please do reach out to us. We'd love to connect and support you in any way that we can. So I'm wishing you all the best for your personal growth journey, and for everyone to take care. If there's any more questions, I don't know if there's any more in the chat.
I'll just announce our next webinar. So we do a webinar once a month for people. So our next webinar is Decision Making Under Pressure. And it is on May 22nd at noon Mountain Time, which would be 2 p.m. Eastern Time, whatever, and you can figure out whatever time zone you are in. So we'd love to have you for that. And you can just register on Eventbrite where if you want to come to that one as well. So we'd love to have you join us. And that will be it. I will send up a follow-up email where you could get the recording of this email, as well as the links for the offers that Carol had available earlier. So thank you very much for everybody for coming, and we will see you next month, hopefully.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.